So I know I'm really jumping around a lot, but there is actually something that I do kind of want to get out there and get off my chest, and that's just something I kind of have a beef with, but at the same time, I really love the idea of, and that is zombie games. I've taken part in 3 at this point, all done by different people, and all done very differently, and it's really cool because, it gave me a chance to see 3 completely different ways that zombie games can be done. And I'm going to talk about what I think are the best ways to handle it and the worst ways to handle it. First off, I have a really big problem with the idea of doing an airsoft zombie game. And I think this would even apply for paintball too. Okay, for me personally, when I think of a zombie movie and just the idea of dealing with zombies in any kind of video game, movie, scenario, whatever, the biggest weakness that I can think of is headshots. I mean, that's basically zombie lore at this point. Zombies die instantly when you shoot them in the head. I mean, I know there's examples where you take off their heads and the head's still alive. For the most part, when you look at your George A. Romero, you look at your Resident Evil, shoot them in the head, they die. That kinda doesn't work in airsoft, because I know there's ways that people have tried to get around this, but I see this having a problem in 2 different ways. First of all, you probably want your zombie actors to have really good makeup. You want to kind of express that realistic nature. You kind of want to immerse the players. So you want to get your actors, maybe have some blood coming down their face, have nice, really open wounds if you can get a good makeup artist. But you really want to make it look cool. The problem is your actors aren't really going to want to be taking face shots while they're not protected. So you think, okay, let's just put face masks on them. And you could theoretically decorate the face masks in some way. It's not going to be the same. It's not going to have that same shock quality as if you have actors with really good looking face makeup. So headshots just kind of become useless at that point. Now, it makes perfect sense. I wouldn't want to be an actor if headshots were encouraged. So, to counteract this, I've actually seen a few games institute a rule where headshots don't count. That also kind of becomes a problem because it sort of becomes the actor's interpretation of a headshot. If you have a BB that kind of grazes by like that or something, the actor might call that a headshot and might still keep lunging at the player if they're up close. And that's just going to turn into drama. It doesn't matter who's right or wrong, it just turns into drama, and it completely brings the game to a screeching halt at that point. And again, I can't blame people for not wanting to get shot in the face. So how do you solve this? I don't know. I have no idea. I think if I had to suggest something, I would say headshots count, but maybe discourage them as much as you can. Say something like, if it's very clear that you're aiming directly at someone's face and you're aiming to pull the trigger and you shoot them square between the eyes, I'd say dock them some points or pull them aside saying, hey, that's not okay. That's really the only thing I can think of because, other than that, maybe just don't even mention headshots because it's just gonna become a really sticky situation. So, with that said, I do want to talk about the games that I've taken part in and the pros and cons of each one. As I said, there were 3. First off, there was Dancing at the Zombie Zoo 2. I did not take part in the first one. That was before Desert Rat's time in the airsoft community. This one was back in 2006, and it was in Corvallis, Oregon, and it was in this old military radar station. At least that's what they told us it was. It was this old military place which basically got put out on the market, and this guy bought it and he turned it into an indoor airsoft facility and I think it's reball. I think that's the paintball version of indoor paintball. I have no idea. I'm sorry if I butchered that. But yeah, that's what he turned it into, and it was fantastic. We abused the crap out of that place. I have many stories about that place. But we got wind that there was going to be a zombie game held there, and so we jumped on that immediately. Well, first of all, it wasn't just a zombie game. There was going to be a zombie game to start off with, and then they were going to end the night with a frickin' live concert by this Portland band. I think its name was Smooch Knob or something. If you've heard of them, good for you. They're okay. I don't really have any gripes with them. I wouldn't go see them again. But I mean, it was just the fact that we had a live concert after an Airsoft game in the same building, which made it so awesome. So that was a really, really awesome concept. I don't even think it was that expensive. I think it was like $25. I mean, looking back, that's not that expensive, but at the time, I was just out of high school. I did not have a job. So I scraped the money together to go to that. Because I think it was still during the summer, so yeah, I wasn't going to school. I didn't have any form of employment, so I was pretty broke at that point. But there were problems almost immediately with this game. Mostly due to the fact that being a player was probably the most unbalanced thing I have ever experienced in an Airsoft game. I cannot think of a way to make it more unbalanced. Let me explain. So, when you were wanting to do this game, you had basically three options. You could pay and be a player, and you had like no benefits, you were just a normal human, you had a gun, you didn't have any ammo restrictions, at least there was that. You went in there, of course there were FPS restrictions, but that went without saying. So you went in there, and you had the objectives that you were supposed to handle. Or you could be a zombie, which was free. There were only 3 zombies, which was kind of a letdown, but I'll get to them. And then there was the third option, which was you were either building security, a werewolf, or a vampire. The werewolves and vampires couldn't die. At least they couldn't die normally. And I'll explain more, but if you just unloaded on a werewolf or a vampire, you couldn't kill them. So, and that was free. But they didn't tell us this. Like, they told you very straight up, like, oh yeah, you know, and there are werewolves and vampires if you don't want to be a normal human. So we all thought, you know, we want to play. You know, we thought maybe it's going to be a competition. Maybe they're going to turn it into like something that there are prizes for. There weren't. But we found out at the game, oh yeah, you know, werewolves and vampires, they can't die. The werewolves and vampires knew this going in because they had like secret separate forums that they discussed on, and they didn't tell us any of this. At least if they did, they kept it very, very remote with who they told. So, we thought it was going to be a lot more fair than this. But you basically started playing, and you would run into a group of vampires, and you'd start shooting them. They would get shot, and they'd take cover, and then they'd just unload on you, and you would have to go back to spawn. So that was probably one of the biggest problems right there, was that there were 2 teams that you just could not kill. The third team, the building security, I think that was actually only invite only, so you couldn't just apply for it. So it meant some of the best players in the community were a part of that. They would help you up to a certain point, because you had certain objectives, and I think most of them had to do with like recovering files, and some of them had to do with rescuing scientists. I was about to say hostages, they weren't hostages. And once you got close to the scientists, the building security would turn on you instantly. And then there were zombies. It was kind of one of those situations where you kind of went, oh yeah, there are zombies here. It didn't really feel like a zombie game. It kind of felt more like a Halloween game. The rules with zombies were if you shot them, they had to stagger back, and then they could keep coming at you. They couldn't ever die. So that was another thing. Zombies couldn't die. So it was basically like they get shot and they go, oh, and then they keep coming for you. But it just got really, really unfair to a point where like you'd unload on a zombie and he just stopped staggering. I don't know if that's something they were told, but you'd be shooting him with a frickin' pistol and he just keeps coming at you. So there was no way to make them really drop down. And then there was something which we were all a little surprised by. This is one of the biggest pros of this game, and that was the secret team. I haven't mentioned it yet. So, we started the game on the second floor of the building, and we all started clearing rooms and moving through, and there was this big open room on the second floor just called HVAC room, and it was just a ton of like low-hanging ventilation stuff, and so you had to duck through stuff, you had to crawl under some stuff. It was dark as hell. There were a few really dusty windows that brought in a tiny bit of light, but the room was massive. So we started moving through there, and that's where the zombies started out too. So they would shamble towards you, you know. A few people shot at them. Most of us just took off for the second floor. That's where Drat got separated. We started moving through, and I think some of us took one stairway, the others took the rest. I ended up by myself with a separate team moving up to the third floor, and we ended up in this big open room, which I think was actually a cafeteria. That's what it kind of looked like. Oh, everything in this building had just been stripped. They ripped everything out of here, so I think Fight Club used to be a cafeteria. Again, that was our name for it, Fight Club. So, we get up to the third floor, and, oh, by the way, we had originally planned to hold up in some rooms, because we got a chance to go to this facility just kind of to get a tour before the actual game was. So we started going through and like thinking, okay, we're gonna get to this room, we're gonna board it up, you know, we're gonna treat this like a freaking zombie survival. Yeah, that didn't work. So I see a group of players just kind of hanging out in Fight Club, so I bust my ass for that. I shut the damn door behind me, and everyone's like checking, like, okay, anyone notice anything? Anyone notice any like files or anything? Do we know what the hell we're supposed to do? I don't know, frickin' clue. Let's just not die. And then all of a sudden, everyone gets really quiet, and we hear way off in the distance, like coming from the other end of the freaking building, we just hear and all of us just frickin' freeze, and we go, the hell is that? And it gets louder. And it keeps getting louder. And then if you know those the like little whistles that you blow in and they go like woo! I don't know what the hell they're called, but we start hearing those, and those are really loud too. And then they're right outside the frickin' door, and they have this evil cackling death laugh, and they just perfected it. It was the Killer Clown team. It was something that they kept hidden brilliantly. There was only like 4 of them. They also couldn't die. But they were the most terrifying thing. I don't like clowns. So maybe it wasn't the most terrifying thing for other people, but I really don't like clowns. So seeing about 4 or 5 of them down a hallway from you, cackling and laughing at you as they're holding guns, and one guy was holding an umbrella and he was using that as a shield, it felt very like demonic Joker from Batman kind of thing meets like the clown from It. Like all of them just had really freaky makeup. Oh, that was awesome. I know I'm talking about how much it scared the crap out of me, but it felt great to see something just like that surprising show up. But as far as the vampires and the werewolves, there were ways you could get around them, but we weren't told them. For example, the werewolves, I think you could shoot them and they would have to go back to spawn, or at least go down for like a minute or something, if you were carrying the silver axe, which the vampires had. And how do you get the vampires to let you use the axe? Well, you had to capture the vampire overlord, which is basically a 4-foot tall or so stuffed Count Chocula. And once you had that, you could give orders to the vampires. Now that is an awesome rule. You have an invincible team which you can control if you have their leader. And then through them, you can subdue the other invincible team. The clowns, you couldn't do shit about them. They were just invincible and scary and death-dealing. But, again, the problem, no one told the players. And I'll tell you exactly a situation of not knowing what the hell to do. We captured the vampire overlord, or rather another team did, and they just held it. They took it to a room and just sat in a corner with it, and they just said, okay, we think this is important, so we're just going to hold on to it. And we found them, and we killed them, and we took it. And so we did the same thing, because we figured, okay, the game must be ending soon. It must be something that you just have to hold, or maybe the longer you hold it, the more points you have. Yeah, that didn't do anything, because we didn't know we were actually supposed to go up to the vampires and say, hey, we have it, so you work for us now. Then another team took it from us, did the exact same thing. Just took the vampire overlord and just held him in place. I don't know what the hell happened after that, but all I know is at the very end of the game, it never got used for its actual purpose. Same thing with the silver axe. The vampires just kind of kept out of the way of the werewolves. And, there's a guy, like, leading the pack, like, with the axe, but they never actually fought each other because they just picked on the players. I don't even think it ended up being competition based in the end. Like, I don't even think any team, like, took first or second or anything. It just basically became a slaughter on the players. And I keep thinking back to it and going, oh yeah, and there were zombies too. Overall, was it fun? Kinda. It was kind of expensive for what you got. I think the idea of it was much better than the actual product. So, yeah, that's what I want to say about Zombie Zoo. The next game, oh my god. This is how you do a zombie game. Outbreak. Outbreak in Rainier, Oregon. Oh my god. This game was absolute perfection. To this day, it's absolutely top 5. And I got so little trigger time, but I had an absolute blast at that game. I think it was actually a school. Yes, it was. It was like a Christian school or something in Rainier, Oregon. I don't know how the hell they got permission, but they did. They got permission from local authorities, they got permission from the school, and the school said, yeah, you can absolutely use the school, because they got a cut of the profits. It went to the school, and I think the only ruling was you can use the school as long as you just clean up after yourselves and don't make a mess, don't break anything, and that's exactly what happened. FPS limits were really low. I think it's even less than normal CQC limits. It might have been like 300 or something, but yeah, FPS limits were low, and everyone had very, very limited ammunition. But this one I'm going to talk a little bit more about, because this is honestly one of the most fun airsofting experiences of my life, and one of the most terrifying. There were only zombies, and they were rage zombies. They sprinted, and everyone was in full face makeup and covered in blood, and it looked freaking amazing. That was the thing about Outbreak, was one zombie had like a zombie Halloween mask, another had a paintball mask, and I think another just had like a ski mask. Forgive the cell phone going off. A ski mask with just like goggles, and it was okay. It was just them doing what they could to just protect their players, or protect their actors. But Outbreak, full face makeup, and it felt unbelievable. It was also a night game. It started, I think, at about 10:30 at night, and I'm just gonna try and go through my experiences of the day. So we met up at I'll go through this when I go through just talking about our team, but I'm team representative number 2, kind of. We kind of share responsibilities, but I'm basically team representative number 2. Team representative number 1 lives about 2 hours north of here, and so we all met up at his place, and we're just kind of hanging out, getting our stuff together, and then we head to the school, and we get there, and I've never seen a game starting at night like to that extent in the middle of a freaking town. Rainier's not that big, but it's just the fact that we're sitting in a school parking lot getting our gear on and loading up our guns, and we have absolute authority to do this. Again, the city knew we were doing this. They knew it was an airsoft event, and the authorities knew this. Everything about this was properly sanctioned, and it felt unbelievable. It is something I will never forget having the opportunity to do. So we pull up, and we learn that, actually we knew this going in, if you brought any outside ammunition, you were leaving it. It was not going in there. They gave you a tiny, tiny bag of ammunition. If you can think of, if you've ever seen like the tiny plastic bags they give you for like earrings or something like that, a ring, just that tiny little plastic bag. It was one of those filled with BBs. So it was very small. I think it might have been like 30 or 40 rounds, something like that. And the rules we started learning about were frickin' cool. Basically, any ammunition that you had that wasn't in your mags was up for grabs when you died. So, let's say you hoard like 4 or 5 of those bags, and then someone kills you and they find them on you. Well, they don't search you, they ask you. If you have them, they're gone. And that really made it feel like a full-on survival game. Like, I'm getting anxiety just thinking about this game, and oh god, it was brilliant. I'm actually going to start talking about the game here in a second. I know I keep rambling. But yeah, you got your bag, and then you went into the basement / first floor of the gym, or of the school, which was the gymnasium. And the school is built really weird. It's on a hill, and so at the bottom of the hill is the gymnasium, so it's kind of the first floor, but then when you go in, it kind of becomes the basement, if that makes any sense, because it ends up going underground. And then when you go up the stairs, you end up at what would be like the second and then third floor, but then the third floor also becomes the first floor because it ends up going out onto the street. So I hope that makes sense. I'm sorry if it's confusing, but that's basically how the school is set up, where the first floor is also the basement, and the third floor is also the first floor because the school's on a hill. So we go into the gymnasium, and we're just kind of killing time, waiting for the game to start. We're all just kind of talking and getting really anxious because we don't know exactly what's coming. We just know there's going to be zombies, and there's going to be a lot of zombies. So then we figure out the way the game's going to be run in terms of teams. So you had your own individual team, and there should never be a reason that your team turns on itself. You're always with your team. And all the other human players, you're on the same team, but only as long as you want. At a certain point, you can go ahead and turn on each other. Actually, you can turn on each other right away. No one did, but you had the option. So, it all depended on how your team wanted to play it. You could attach onto another team and be like really strong, or you could kill them off and take their stuff, and just kind of live by every team for itself mentality. It was freaking awesome. So, eventually we figure out, okay, game time's about to start. And then we hear sirens just blast through the entire gymnasium, just and the lights start flickering, and we're like, oh shit, something's happening. And we look down the hallway to the stairs leading up to the second and third floors, and we hear this guy just come running and screaming, and these just guttural just growls chasing after him. We just go, oh shit. And then we hear a frickin' blank firing pistol blast off in the hallway, and then it's just dead silent. And that was game time. That was game on. And we're like, oh, fuck, we have to go in there. And so the entire team of players just starts very, very easily moving through. And we go up the stairs, and we end up on the second floor. And we go up the stairs, and we end up on the third floor. And we look down the hallway, and there's just about 5 or 6 lab coat wearing zombies coated in blood. Their faces are covered in blood. They just have like, some of them had like pieces of their faces like ripped off due to like latex and stuff like that. I mean, they were far away, but we could see them when they got closer because we get to the top and all of our flashlights are on, which was a dumb idea. And then we look down the hallway and just all of them just turned like that, just like instantly, and just and just took off running down the hallway at a dead run for us. It was fucking scary and awesome. And just the entire front row of people just raised their guns and just fired off about 3 rounds, which was a bit overkill because ammo was scarce. They said they hid ammo in the school for you to find as kind of like pickups or something. We found a couple, we didn't find many. So yeah, ammo was scarce. There actually got to a point where I was firing blanks basically just for effect. Like, you know, maybe I'll make someone get their head down or make them think that I'm shooting. But yeah, I was firing blanks after a while. So after that, it basically became, okay, we're not messing around. No one's turning on each other. So we huddled together in just a big mass of players just moving through. We're clearing rooms. And then we actually knew what we were supposed to do. And basically, they took a lot from kind of what felt like a very Resident Evil or Silent Hill thing. So you had to go to individual rooms, and you didn't know where the rooms were, but I think there were 5 or 6 key cards hidden in 5 or 6 rooms, and you had to find all of them, and associated with each one was a color and I think a word. And once you had all of them together, you went to the front of the school, and you basically had to solve a pretty complex as hell puzzle. I didn't do it. I was on security watch when we got our chance to do it. But that was the overall objective, was basically just escape. Find the key cards and escape. So that's pretty much what we were doing for the first hour or so of the game, was just combing the rooms. We found all the key cards really quickly, and then we ran out of ammo really quickly too, because we were so freaked out. I mean, we'd go into a room, and we'd find a key card, and I got grabbed. I got grabbed from underneath a frickin' desk, and I jumped out of my frickin' boots, and I just unloaded about 5 rounds into the guy, so that was a lot of my ammunition gone, and everyone pretty much did the same thing, where they just like hold down the trigger. And then we forced ourselves to put the guns on semi, which was a big problem for me because I was using a G36, which had very low power, and it didn't like working on semi-auto, but I had to do it. So we started burning through ammo really quickly, and then we just realized, okay, we got to get the hell out of here. I mean, we gotta get to the front. So we ended up having to go through the library, and that's almost where we ended up holding up and just like blocking all the doors. But we went in there. There were 2 zombies in there, and like one was laying down, just basically in a dead position. He just pushed himself up and came at us. We killed him. Another one was hiding behind some bookshelves, I think, and he came at us too. And we started holding up in there for a little bit, I remember, and then we got out of there. But then we started doing the puzzle up front to get out, and we actually did it. We were the first team out of there, which probably just kind of shows off our ridiculous nerdiness with video game puzzles. I don't know if that's something to be proud of at this point. But then they gave us 3 options, and this was another really well done thing, because they said we could either do it again, like go down to the basement and start all over again, and look for the key cards and try and get out even quicker. We could go put our gear away and go get makeup to become zombies, or go back in, as we are now, and fuck with the other teams. Yeah, we chose 3. We laughed our asses off, and we were like, okay, yeah, let's have some fun. So we basically went in there, and we started screwing with the other teams. I think we stabbed a few backs. I should explain something else you could take. In addition to ammunition, every player had 2 glow sticks, and if you got attacked by a zombie once, you snapped a glow stick. If you got attacked by a zombie again, you snapped another glow stick. If you got attacked a 3rd time and you didn't have a glow stick, which was the case if you didn't pick up any, unless you lost some and you only had like 1 or none, you became a zombie. Like, that was just it. You were done. If you got attacked by a zombie and you did not have a glow stick, you went to the zombie room and you were a zombie. Unless you just didn't really want to. I mean, I guess you could just leave at that point. But yeah, that was basically it. And that was another really, really cool thing, because the glow sticks were basically like antidotes or something. So, I'm pretty sure we took a few of those off some players. Don't really feel good about that, but we did it anyways. Then we ended up in what would be... So the 3rd floor / 1st floor had kind of its own separate basement, like near the area where you would exit onto the street, like where it becomes the 1st floor. There was another little path down some stairs, and there were 2 rooms down there, and they were scary as hell. One was just like this big storage room with just like old ass furniture and stuff like that. Another room next to it was just this, I don't know what the hell it was. It was just this big open room, and the doorway was like 8 feet tall and like 12 feet wide. And there wasn't really much in there. There was like a few couches and chairs, and it was freezing cold in there. I remember that. We hung out in there a few times on the other occasions that we were at this school for other events, but every time it was just frigidly freezing in there, and it sucked. But for some reason we decided, you know what, this is where we're gonna have to hold up. Let's just go in there, and any team members, like any other players that come by, let's just shoot the shit out of them. Like, yeah, this is it. We're gonna barricade. We're going to designate a little house, and this is going to be our house, and no one's gonna come into our house. We head down there, and there's another team in there, and they basically all had the couches set up like freaking barricades. It looked awesome. And so at one point they raised their guns up, and we're like, oh shit. And we have our guns on them. And we're like, hi guys, can we hang out here too? And they're like, truce? Yeah, truce. We actually didn't stab them in the back. We actually did keep the truce with them, which was cool. So our team of 8 turned into a team of 12. Holding up in this little lounge room, all hiding behind couches. And yeah, a few players came down there, and they wished that they wouldn't have, because they peeked their head in and then got shot by about 4 or 5 guns. And then we hear him go up top and go, there's like 10 guys in there, they're assholes, go shoot them! Yeah, we held that room. We held that room hard. And it was fun as hell. Eventually we actually just got pretty bored. We thought, let's go walk around, let's go look for some fun stuff to do. I ended up actually getting separated again, just like in Zombie Zoo, and I hooked up with another team and started running with them. At this point my goggles were completely fogged because I was running my ass off, and it was actually really warm in the first floor, from what I remember, and I was just wearing those really big goggles that you see a lot of like first time players using. I don't know what the hell they are, but oh my god, they fog up so bad. And I was using those, and I just could not see at that point. I mean, I saw like the shirt of the person in front of me. It didn't help me. It didn't help that it was basically pitch black in there, and the only lighting was like a few blue lights and strobe lights. So that really didn't help much. And I had a really cheap flashlight attached to my G36. So that's when it started getting difficult, because that's when we started losing a lot of players, because it was getting to the point where people were starting to run out of glow sticks. I stayed with that team for a little bit, and then we started to check out a bathroom which had 2 zombies in it, and they grabbed about 3 or 4 of our members and took them out. I distinctly remember our last stand of the game, which was basically me and 3 others at the end of this hallway, and I just hear about 15 zombies like in the hallway, probably more. Actually, I'm pretty sure more. And they just come booking it around the hallway. And everyone just gets into a last stand effort. Like, some guy's walking forward with his pistol out, and he's just like, he knows he's done. Other team representative Grayson, aka Junto, he's right back there capping off zombies with his pistol. And I freaking loved his final thing. We knew it was the end of the game. Like, we knew this was the last stand. And then I just see him go. And I don't know if he said safety kill, or like he initiated like some sort of like, or like if he fired it behind his head, but he basically made it clear that he just killed himself, which was so freaking cool. That was something straight out of any zombie movie that you could imagine. Oh my god, I was laughing my ass off. I got attacked by a zombie, but I still had a glow stick. So, me and I think one other person on Drat ended the game, the only 2 players technically alive, because he was somewhere else. And I found him later, and I was like, did you die? No, I'm fine. I was hiding in a room, and he asked me what happened to me. I was like, I got attacked, but I had a glow stick, so they called game. So I'm still alive. Ugh. So that was pretty much Operation Outbreak, and I don't think I'll ever see a zombie game that well run ever again. Mostly due to the fact that CQC facilities are diminishing, and they're diminishing really, really bad. I guess it's just like, it's partly a safety thing. It's also partly to do with just no one wants to take the time to run one, because you have to, you basically, I mean, first of all, you have to have a great location, but the other thing is, I think most of them end up being in very heavily, like, residential areas, or like just commercial areas, and that kind of makes people a little anxious, you know, like driving into the middle of a city with your guns in the back of your car, and you jump out and you take your guns into the place. But I mean, there's just that, I don't know, there's just kind of that hesitation, and just that something can go wrong. Some idiot can be walking down the street carrying his gun, or in full camouflage, and some old lady can just call the cops freaked out. But yeah, that was pretty much Operation Outbreak.